Okay, excellent. So I just want you to start out by just saying your name, age, and what street you grew up on in Hammond.
My name is Charloot Blalk, hyphenated King, K-I-N-G. I live currently at 1004 Highland Street, Hammond, Indiana. And what was the third thing?
And your age.
Oh, I'm currently 67 years old. I'll be 68 October 5th of this year.
Okay, excellent. So tell me, did you grow up in Hammond or did you move to Hammond?
I moved to Hammond when I got married in 1969.
Okay, 1969. So when you actually moved to Hammond, did you live on Highland Street or did you live somewhere else in Hammond?
My first address was 6011 Columbia Avenue. It was a duplex that my husband's uncle purchased. It was an all-white unit, and when he purchased, we were the first black, and then the other three left, and we filled it up with people our ages. Raymond Cross, he and his wife, and two other couples, I can't even think. Oh, let me go back a while. I lived in Hammond at my younger age on, 51 Willis Street. I can't think of the exact, I know that exact address, but I can't think of it right now. But I lived on Willis Street.
Okay.
My family, we attended Lafayette Elementary School. We were only in Hammond for about 3 years, and I moved when I was going into my 7th grade. And I moved to Gary as a child.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you found your husband in Gary, or did he live in Hammond?
He lived in East Chicago. I was born and raised in East Chicago. Born in the city section of New Edition community in East Chicago.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So, so when you moved to Hammond, what actually brought you back to Hammond?
Well, again, we were newlyweds, and my husband's uncle had just purchased this duplex, and it was ideal. He wanted us to move in there, helping us out as young folks.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. And ironically, that whole concept is there was a lot of people who were from the South, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, who moved to the Chicago area because of industrialization and better jobs, this, that, and the other. And so, but within that concept of it takes a village to raise a family, it was apropos that your uncle had an opportunity, a living situation opportunity, and extended that to you guys. So that was a good thing.
A very good thing. In fact, it was a whole family of white folks that lived in the entire building, and my uncle had told them that he would be, after their lease was up, they would have to go because he was putting in his own people. And, again, it was Raymond Cross, Stephanie Harwell, and Leroy Harwell. They were down the street. So it was myself, Raymond, Lula Brooks, and Noble Woods, he and his wife. That's what it was, yeah. So it was 4 couples in it.
Okay. So in 1969, what was the environment like in Hammond? Well, I mean, what did you see? Was it was there tensions? Was it just a big loving family, or what was it like when you and your husband moved there?
Well, for the most part, it was just a nice knitted community. We had our grocery store right down the street from us. And I was familiar with Hammond because I had lived here, like I said, as a child. Mm-hmm. And my husband knew a lot of the younger people because they were like rivalries from East Chicago Roosevelt and Hammond High and all of that. So it was just a nice, I loved it. It was community-minded. We weren't involved in anything. We were just starting a family. And everybody just seemed to know everybody. But one thing I did realize, I was always, and to this date, have been considered a transplant. So in that sense of the word, I was not accepted as those that were actually born and raised in East Hammond. I was always considered a transplant.
Okay. Now, at what point were you...
Definition of
Right. At what point did they open their arms and say, okay, she's one of us now?
To date, they haven't even to date, it's not so.
Oh,
because,
okay.
And it's okay, and I understand it, because I realized it when my children were growing up, how they, the community just embraced my boys, but just had a disdain for me. I didn't get it. And then finally somebody told me, you weren't born here. Your boys are Hammonites. They're East Hammond. You're not. I said, oh, I get it. But they love my children. And I didn't get it, but I understand it now. And you follow what I'm saying? And as our kids got older, when they all went to Maywood School, who at the time was desegregated. And how I got involved, me and Stephanie Harwell and Bobby Cross and a few others, Annie Hicks, who was the first black teacher at Maywood School, called me, and why she called me, only God knows, and stated that, Miss King, I'm just letting you know, you seem to be a little more talkative than most people. This guy is coming down from Washington, D.C., and they're talking about closing Maywood School to integrate the schools because of the law. And there's a meeting, and I want you to come and bring as many people as you can. And that was the beginning of my advocacy and my community activists in East Hammond. And even in that, people would say, well, who is she? I would go to the school board meetings and get everybody all riled up and ask the right question, and everybody said, well, who is she? What's she talking about? And it was odd, but I was always, myself and Bobby Cross, we took turns being the spokesperson. And then we got involved with the NAACP, Miss Jenkins, who, Miss Jenkins really embraced us. She saw us as these little crazy, little nappy-head women, don't have nothing else to do, need to be at home with their husbands, children. I'm going to show them the ropes. And she did. But then we end up in a way of breaking her heart because we saw Miss Jenkins wasn't going to do anything about the whole situation. We was going to school board meetings. They was like keeping us at 2 o'clock in the morning because, when it came to talk about Maywood and yada, yada, yada. But we stayed. And when we realized Ms. Jenkins wasn't going to do anything, we took it upon ourselves, and the federal government worked with us, the parents. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. I was at home minding my own business. The phone rang. It was John Johnson from Washington, D.C. He said, Ms. King, I understand you all are having an NAACP meeting tonight. I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I want you and Ms. Cross and the ladies to go there and tell them to stop any action that they're about to do because the feds are coming in. So I ran across the park because, Bobby Cross, she stayed right across the street on Lion Street in that blonde brick house. I can see it now because I'm sitting on my front porch. I'm barefooted. Bobby, girl, you're lying. I said, I swear. So anyway, we all came to the meeting, and we went to the podium, all of us, as a group. And we told them what the feds told us. They immediately had not an adjournment, what you call a break in the meeting. What do you call it? You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And Miss Pearline went and told Dr. Congreve, because he was the principal at the time, oh, they just lying. Ain't nobody coming. Don't believe them. But when they came, oh, my God, it just set the whole East Hammond at another level. We end up, and Miss Jenkins was hurt because at the meeting she didn't understand why we did what we did, and we, what she called, documented her, which we went from January 1 to February, why we had to do what we do because you weren't doing anything. But she forgave us, you know what I mean? And she continued to work with us, but she just said that hurt her, that you all would stand up in a meeting. But we told her. She didn't believe us, So anyway, that was my beginnings of my advocacy through Maywood School. Our kids were in kindergarten. They were going to school. They had to wear two separate different clothes because it was hot and cold. Broken windows, rags were stuffed in the broken windows. We saw where our kids' books were borrowed from the other schools, and we had a PTA that we were going to. We were asking questions, but we didn't know how involved it was that our kids were really getting a low-class education.
So when the Fed, let's just back up just for a second. When the Feds came, their agenda was to close Maywood down. Was that their agenda?
No, the city's agenda, City of Hammond's agenda, was to shut Maywood down and then send our kids out to the white schools to integrate. Because we were a segregated school. We was all black. Maywood was all black.
Right.
And according to the law at that time, you had to integrate. Was it Brown?
Right,
Brown?
right. Brown versus the Board of Education.
Right, because, I wasn't a student in that. I was raising a child, and taking care of a husband. We weren't, we read the news, but, we just weren't in that mode.
Right.
And, but we prevented that, and that's why we have a brand new Maywood school to this day. People don't realize that. It took myself and four other women, attending those school board meetings. My child, he was in the kindergarten. He never got a chance to take advantage of the new school, but they cleaned up the school. The windows were fixed, the books, we got better books, but they never closed Maywood School to desegregate, to integrate the other schools. Never did.
So now Maywood is it's more Hispanic, black, and white. So it was integrated, but go ahead.
It was integrated by. Not so much by a mandate. Maywood School was the only school that had open enrollment. That was something we fought for. That would allow anybody from any area could come to Maywood. And we had an all-day kindergarten, first in the history of Indiana. But let me tell you, there was a school board meeting after all this drama that they called. We almost had a race riot at Civic Center because that's where they held it. We got there. Ms. Jenkins was so nervous. And John Johnson told us, just sit with her, but don't let her say a word. Don't say a mumbling word. Do not go to that mic. And then white folks was going up to that mic talking about you can line these Hammond with gold. We ain't bringing our kids to deal with you niggers. They called us niggers and everything else. And I ain't going to lie, we were a little nervous because, these white folks really showed their true color. Say, I don't care what you do, we're not sending our kids to Maywood School. So anyway, we didn't say anything, but it was this guy. Oh, God, I'm looking right at him. I think his name was John Henry. Everybody knew him in East Hammond. Oh, my God, she's passed. He stayed on. He was related to Maggie Pearl and all them. Tall, thin guy, sharp dresser. He came out of nowhere. Everybody knew him. Marched down that aisle, went to that podium, and I almost had his name, announced who he was. He had on pinstripe suit, cane, top hat, the whole 9 yards. I almost had it. It'll come to me. And he said... It
wasn't Archie Moore. Was it Archie Moore?
No, but it was in that group. Oh, my God. I'm looking right at him. Nice-looking, brown-skinned fella. I'm going to have to call Sweet Pea. And she'll, you might even want to talk to Sweet Pea because she was, she wasn't born here either, but she was here longer than I was because I even went to school with her. So anyway, he told Henry, here it is, Henry, his name was Henry. Oh, God, Henry something. He told them, I don't care what you do, but and he pointed to us, if you touch the tiniest hair on these women's head, you will have to deal with me. And as fast as he marched in, he marched out. Them white folks, they were so nervous. We was nervous. He just injected fear in the school board members. He said, and he just pointed to us, don't you touch them. I don't care what happens. Don't you, if I find out that harm is coming to these women, you're going to have to deal with me. His name was Henry something. I'll never forget that long as I live. And I can't even tell you. I would have to subtract Damani was born in '69, 5 years. He went to school in '75, so it was in the '70s, '74. He started school in '75, something like that. So that's how we have to figure out the years. But that's how we end up getting our school renovated on the spot. But we end up with a new school, and it was integrated by virtue of the fact that parents, the white teachers, brought their kids there, and then some Hispanics, and then a few whites. But it really didn't do what they expected it to do. But like you said, now it's Hispanics because the Hispanics are in East Hammond, and but it's still more African Americans at Maywood than Hispanics, from what I gather.
Mm-hmm. So did the feds come in to help fund it? Is that how you got the money, or is it a city funded?
Yeah, they provided funding for the all-day kindergarten and open enrollment. They tried to make it a magnet school, but that never transpired. But the open enrollment and all-day kindergarten, which a benefit, but they still said you could line East Hammond with gold. We ain't coming.
Okay. So now this group of were you guys NAACP at the time, or was just a group of PTA parents?
We joined the NAACP once it started going, but it was primarily, we was working with Miss Jenkins. She was the president, but it was myself, Bobby Cross, Stephanie Harwell, Diane Dillard, and Florence Payton. We were the Magic Five. And to this date, Miss Pearlie Jenkins believes, because we ended up going to court. We found that the NAACP, the Fed, somebody filed the lawsuit. I can't remember who it was. And Miss Jenkins blamed Florence Payton on the lawsuit because one of our school board meetings she went to, she stood up and said, if y'all don't get it right, we're going to take you to court. And we weren't supposed to say that. But she said it, and that's what ended up happening. Until the day Miss Jenkins died, she blamed Florence for it all going to court. I don't really know whatever happened to it because it went on and on and on. I know Ruth McCoy used her children as one of the plaintiffs, and because that was a hard thing, getting parents to come forward and use their kids. And we were too close, and they said we couldn't use ours because we were part of the
right, you're party to the claim.
Right.
So what was the actual complaint? What did you guys want to happen?
We wanted they claimed that our kids were getting an inferior education because of the desegregation law. That the books were inferior, the building was inferior. Now, the teachers were good. I have to give them that. The teachers were good. But the building and the instructional materials was just inadequate. And by the law, by virtue of the law, our kids were not getting an equal education because, no white kids was in there. That's basically what the law said.
Okay. So when you said it didn't end up like you guys wanted it to be, once the white students and were infused into Maywood, and then they infused some money to fix up the facilities and maybe give you X amount of books that were new as opposed to hand-me-downs from other schools. Did the quality of education raise a little bit, or did it not?
Yeah, because all eyes were at Maywood School. We were relentless. We were part of every committee that they came up with. If one of the five, we were on it. We was the eyes, ears, and I mean, in the articles. I mean, we sold so many papers. It was just phenomenal. It was a good time. And again, that's how I became an activist. Because prior to that, I was crazy in college because I won't go there, but I wore it after school. I went to school in Missouri and got kicked out because got hooked up with the Black Panthers down there, and that's another story in itself. It ain't got nothing to do with East Hammond there, but I guess
okay.
Huh?
So it added to your feistiness in hooking up with the
it gave me
Black
the
Panthers there. So when you came to a small town, you carried a big stick.
Right, right. Very big stick.
Okay. So what were some of the other activist functions that you guys did other than the Maywood scenario? Was there anything that you guys did to help uplift the city or just raise the voice of the things that needed to be better? What else did you guys do?
Well, I personally got involved. I was approached to bring back the Indiana Black Expo, and that was in the 80s. And I did, and we brought we brought the pageant back and all of that, and that rose. I mean, that was a very fun time, pageants, and then with Black Expo, we were taking kids to Indianapolis, for the expo down there, and we were just getting kids. It was just a fun time, and so many good things. What they call themselves, the Neighborhood Action Council. They had the annual picnic in the park, which was always awesome, coming together of people. And we don't have that anymore, And that was Miss Cherry and her group. And then later on when Mr. Nuttall became the, he beat John Parrish out as councilman, we got a lot of, a lot of good things started happening. The new homes in Hamlet Heights, that was a fight in itself. I'll never forget that, because at the time I was a commissioner. And
you were a commissioner of urban renewal? Or
no,
what?
redevelopment commissioner. I was the first female African-American redevelopment commissioner in the city of Hammond under Mayor Deedlow. And I was appointed through the council by the hands of Mr. Nuttall, because he became council. And he and I, we was like the good cop, bad cop. I was always the bad cop. And between the two of us, a lot of things did happen. The housing projects, not projects, the new homes in East Hammond. Only thing we did, we realized now, but we didn't realize then, we were giving up all of our economic development, our businesses, which the city of Hammond lied and said they were going to relocate, and they never did. It was always a song and dance. So we lost our mom and pop businesses, our cleaners, when they took out Conkey for the homes. At the time, you follow what I'm trying to say?
No, definitely, because when I talk with let's see, who did I talk with? I just talked with the councilman,
Anthony.
And right, and I was saying that and I talked with some other people too, and saying that redevelopment was good, but then redevelopment may have not been that good, only because at one point with this sense of entrepreneurship and ownership of businesses on Conkey Street, from the hotels to yes, there were taverns there too, but there were grocery stores, there were laundromats and different eateries and different things there that once you took that and you put these really nice homes, don't get me wrong, the homes are nice, but there is no business owners there now.
Absolutely. And that was, like I said, something you didn't realize until you knew the city lied. Like even we just never got it back. Mr. Collins was about the only one that really tried to hang out the longest, from what I remember. And when they took down Brooks House, everything they tore down, they never replaced, and that's even to date under McDermott.
Right.
Whatever reason, we just didn't push to replace. We just didn't know the value of a Brooks House. And then when they tore down Brooks House, they gave us the swimming pool, and I'll never forget myself and Bert, the Bert's boy. I was older than them, but I just took them under my wing. We picketed the swimming pool because we told them we didn't want no swimming pool. We wanted a community center. Something you're going to give us something we can only use, 2 months out the year, as opposed to the community center, 12 months out the year. So I'll never forget
exactly.
that. Mr.
Right,
Bird.
and the Brooks House was so key to I mean, it had a library, it had all kinds of things that functions, and people went on, the kids went on trips and all kinds of stuff there. So the only thing that is comparable now, I don't know, what's the Steen Center?
Nothing.
I don't know what.
No,
Nothing.
the Ophelia Center was supposed to replace it, but I knew from the size of the location, the land that they gave them, that we never have another Brooks House, and to date we don't. We'll never get it back. And even Bethany, that was taken down. That's another story in itself under this administration. You know, it's just so many stories out here. But the bottom line was they just didn't want to give us anything. I shouldn't say we didn't fight. We didn't know what to fight for. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We just became place. You know, we were making strides, like I said, with the new homes, and you know, we don't even have a little league when the little league left, and then, you know, I just didn't get it. But then, like I told them, my thing was, why would you want a little league when your field looking like the dump? The white kids got all these state-of-the-art things that,
right.
You know, but they want to say, well, it's because the parents. I said, no, that was a lot of city money. That land originally was city land, you know. And why can't we get at least our the board, a new board that only costs $300 or $400? Why can't you get a new one of that? You know, why can't we get lights? Why can't we get it graded? You know, our stand. I mean, you know, those are the kind of questions I raised. You know, and if it was a state of the art a baseball field back there, the kids would be back there. But and then again, consider the in my opinion, how they like to pigeonhole us. They didn't really want a black team out here because now our good kids are over in Hessville or over because you know some parents do have the transportation to take them somewhere, so they don't have that competition. You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
That's how I was thinking. And they say, oh, Ms. King, you always think. I say, but think about it, guys. Why can't the mayor? Why don't we have a decent field as opposed to what these other Hessville and all these other places have? So anyway, that's just in my head, you know.
Right. I mean, do you think? I know the makeup of Hammond has changed from yesteryear when everything was rosy kind of thing. Well, maybe not that rosy, but I mean it was one all for one and one for all kind of thing. But now that the makeup has changed and maybe crime has gone up and this, that, and the other, do you think that the lack of activities, like positive activities, like a baseball, like Brooks House, this, that, and the other, where kids had something to do during the summers and stuff. It wasn't just like go hang out on the corner. And yes, we have a pool, and the basketball court has always been there as long as I've known.
Yeah.
I mean, Maywood Park and this, that, and the other. But do you think that the lack of those activities have breeded the negativeness of, some of the things that are happening now?
Absolutely, and I personally believe, since I had an opportunity to be at the table, because I worked for the city of Hammond from 2005 to 2011, and I actually saw for myself how it works. And then when I was a redevelopment commissioner, I saw how it works. It was all about that dollar, and white folks can come in there and get any kind of money they want to start a business. But anytime black folks come in there, it was a song and a dance, and I was always outvoted. And it just really aggravated me. Even when I started my dance and modeling school in '82, I went before the commission, and I had taken some of my potential students. I told them, I said, girls, I'm going to show you how government works. So I went and submitted my application, and I had to come to the hearing, and I stood up and talked. And Miss Virgie Alexander, unbeknown to me, went to the microphone and spoke against it, saying we don't need that. It's going to be a parking problem. And I was just astounded. So, and the only way I was able to go back and get the permit, because I needed a use conditional permit when you have a visitor in your home, Yvonne and her other daughter went to her and said, Mama, Miss King, she works with little girls, and we need this. No, but see, some honky had to put her up to do it. I know that. You don't need that. And she was older, old school, and she apologized and ended up going before the council, the redevelopment commission, and and said
Retract
it was okay.
it? Yes.
And then they're going to turn around, well, you can't do it anyway because you need a third entrance. I said, a third? And I had 3 entrances. Bottom line, they made me dig out another entrance in my basement to secure it. And they just gave me such a hard time. And then Rashada Morris, at the time, who was one of the directors up there for redevelopment, she said, well, Carlotta, your first mistake was wearing that mink coat. They was pissed off. I said, what? Rashada, you could you could take that. As I say, that's ridiculous. She said, I'm just telling you the truth. When you walked up in that mink coat, talking intelligent, they said, oh, no, this nigga ain't going to get nothing. She told me this.
Well,
and
that's
that was the
interesting.
reality. But I ended up getting it, and they gave it to me, but it was so hard. And then I was working for NIPSCO at the time, and they helped me. I mean, it was just a good time. I had to dance in modeling school. We had Black Expo. Kids were being active, and slowly we saw a lot of these services leaving us. The Brooks House, that was number 1. And then they toured around with For Your Steam. And we knew then that was not comparable to Brooks House. Then the Laura Passmore, Miss Duran, and I was part of that too. We bought the building right across from City Hall. They call it the Laura Passmore House. But still, it was too small to accommodate what the Brooks House had, but they were part of Brooks House. But they had little cooking classes, and they had a girls' club, and they had a cotillion, which I coordinated for them every year. So we was trying to substitute, provide other services through my school and, Laura Passmore. But then now they're gone because they all old and passed away, and Miss Durr's still living, though. But the building just sitting there, and it's probably going to deteriorate because no one's there to pick it up. We had Bethany, and that could have easily been a daycare. I mean, it could have been a little community center because when McDermott Jr. got in office, I was on the board. I was on everything. I was on the board of directors for Bethany, and we went to Awana Miller, who became the director at that time because Rashada was fired under McDermott. And they did a little study, but for whatever reason, they said no. The facility, 7,500 square feet. We certainly could have had something in that building, three floors, plus a basement with 12-foot ceilings.
Right. Was it the city said no and wouldn't give you a permit, or who said no?
The city, now see, by me being a redevelopment commissioner, I knew where the money went. I knew the mayor had discretionary funds that he was sending everywhere else through every other part of. And wait a minute, hold on one second. Do not hang up.
Sure.
No, she just has to call back. So anyway, I knew where the money was going as a redevelopment commissioner, and I was a licensed realtor, and so I had an ear to the community too, and it was just no. Why? No. Well, we're not going to do it at this time. So the building ended up being torn down by the city, which was a travesty. I'll never forget, I went down there and I cried because I was on the board and we were trying to prevent the building from being torn down, and because we had it up for sale, had a buyer. Then the mayor going to tell us, well, we need to talk to your buyer, which is illegal.
Right.
You get involved in the sale of our building. But she wanted the building, so she ended up talking to one of his staff persons. They wanted to know what she was going to do with it because they was afraid it was going to be a homeless shelter. They didn't want that.
Oh. So
that's why we don't have a library. We only have one library now because I'll never forget, I was sitting at the mayor's table, one staff meeting, and we were talking about bringing various things to the city, and he made the comment, no, we don't want that because if you build it, they will come. So right. Stupid. I say, Mayor, who is they? Who are you talking about? It got quiet. You can hear a pin drop. Like, Miss King, you know who they are. You know, the niggas and the po folks and the folks in Chicago.
Right.
And he never answered my question.
That's amazing.
I was over the development, the Jacob Square development, to bring in new development, which is part of the 3rd District. And, wait a minute. Hey, Pat, I'm on a long distance. What's up?
Okay, Leon, I was asking, could she drop you off after the meeting? She said, I can pick
truck, too. Okay. Right here in Hammond. Okay, that works. 5:30? Okay, yeah. 5:30. Okay, she'll pick you up. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, bye. Okay, thanks. And,
Sure.
what was I saying? Because I'm old.
That's it. Well, I mean, you were just giving saying that the mayor had earmarked things for other things, and then that
when it's just crazy. When I worked for him as the executive director for United Neighbors Inc., I was given the opportunity to build a new subdivision in Hesville of new homes. Loved it. But when I tried to do the same thing in Jacob Square for poor people, they shut it down, unbeknown to me. You know, they went right behind my back because they didn't want it.
So do you think I mean, obviously there's a time period where there was a lot of racial things or biases going on, this, that, and the other. Do you think that the overall agenda was to get rid of Conkey, get rid of the Brooks House, get rid of the things that you can assemble in, and for the good of the physical and mental health of people, and just put homes there so you can do less things? You know, there's just homes. You go there and you live there, but you're not gathering and you're not talking about issues.
You hit it on the nail. You hit it on the nail. And because they lied. They told these businesses they would be relocated, or there would be some land set aside, which they could have placed all those businesses on the other side of Columbia Avenue. They really, if they wanted to, along that side of Columbia Avenue. Although,
which are just fields now, basically.
Yeah, nothing but field. They got a big for sale sign up there to sell the land. When I was a commissioner, I had found a developer to actually put houses there, homes, because a lot of people was becoming empty nesters, and they wanted some townhomes. Well, that didn't work. That fell through. But you hit it on the nail. And the reason I know that, I went to a meeting, a mayor's night out in Robertsdale, primarily white, near Whiting, north.
Right.
And this guy literally called me out. He told the mayor, how come we don't have new development homes like they have in East Hammond? Miss King, you know what I'm talking about. I looked at that young white boy. I said, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And from that moment on, under Mayor McDermott, it stopped. There has not been one new housing development in the 3rd or 2nd district. Under my program, I was able to rehab 2 homes in East Hammond. And that was a major fight. But I knew these houses were worth. In fact, one of the houses is the house right next door to your dad, that blue and white house on the corner.
Oh, yes, right.
That was my baby. I took that house, and the mayor didn't want to do it. Oh, you're putting in too much money. I said, well, according to HUD, we can do that. You're supposed to take a loss. It's okay.
Right. And then a Latin family moved in, a Mexican family, or, Hispanic family just moved in there. Yeah. But that's the point of urban renewal. I mean, really.
What'd you say?
I said, I think that's the point of urban renewal, is to get a distressed property, build it up so people can move there, so property taxes can be charged, then the city makes money. I thought that was the idea.
In fact, before they fired me, I had a couple of black women that wanted to buy. I couldn't understand for the life of me why she couldn't get it, and that sort of bothered me. But it ended up with the Latin family. But I'm just glad they sold it, because it was a nice house, and I just wanted a nice anchor for that block in the school,
Right. School's right across the street. Right, exactly.
Right.
Okay. So in your estimation, who are now the movers and shakers, the people who get stuff done? Or if there are any, I mean, who's the Reverend Burns now? I mean, who are the people getting?
We really don't. Anthony, I've forgiven him, because he was part of why I got fired from the city of Hammond. in 2011, 2011. And because him and the mayor, they have like a hate-love relationship. 1 year they're on, 1 year they're off. 1 year they love it. And in 2011, I was running for 3rd District Council. Anthony could be a powerful black young man, but he only goes so far. He allows the mayor to use him. Anthony is a politician and not a public servant. You know, I was a public servant. That was the difference between myself. And
right,
so
okay,
really
okay.
Could be. He could be the kingpin, but he just don't know how to wield his power. He just don't. He allows the mayor to make a fool out of him. Now here you got Woodmar, which is in your district, activities going on in terms of economic development, and you don't know nothing about it. You got Walmart that closed down. You didn't know nothing about it until everybody else knew about it, and it's in your district. They're talking about putting a sport complex attached to Woodmar Shopping Center, but you don't know nothing about it, and it's in your district. You see what I'm saying? He puts it in such a crazy way, you know, pettiness, but he don't know you are still the 3rd District Councilman, and you do have people that support you. So really, he could be and he ain't. So I tried. I will speak up regardless, because when we had this issue in 2014, I led a Black Lives Matter rally. What I do that for? It was just, you know, when Trayvon and all them got killed, I went on Facebook. Anybody in Hammond want to have a Black Lives Matter rally? And before I knew it, it grew. This girl from Purdue jumped on board, and this girl from Chicago who got all the, well, anyway, we had almost 400 people out there within 2 weeks. The mayor demonized it. Unbeknownst to us, he was sitting in his office watching the whole thing, went on WJLB and laughed. Now, at that point, Anthony and I was on the same page. He came, and the other black, the Hispanic councilman came and supported us. They took a hit. We all took a hit. I was accused of trying to incite a riot. It got so ugly. In fact, the assistant chief of police came up to me and put his finger in my face, waving it and shaking it. I mean, I could just feel his thumb, his finger on my nose, and telling me, if anything go down, it's on you, Miss King. All I could say was, hands up, don't shoot, and kept walking. And everybody, because we knew then it was going to get off. But it was this one Hispanic cop looked at me and said, Miss King, go by the light. Just go by the light. And I looked at that young Hispanic, and I did what he said, because I didn't want to get killed that day. I mean, all's good in love and war, but you do want to go home, you know?
Right.
So we managed to pull off that a great way. It got good press, good photos. But the mayor, he was livid. He said we was trying to have another person, and wasn't no need, because it was right after, I don't know if you know anything about, it made national news when that cop smashed that boy's window.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was the result of that. It was about 2 weeks after that we did that. And the Trayvon Martin killing and all them other killings, we were just in support. We said we weren't against policemen. We were just in support Black Lives Matter, period. So, I mean, it's so much.
So have there been, I mean, I guess for 1 second, I'm just going to take the mayor's point of view just for a second, just to see if the reason why they didn't want people to assemble and protest for the positivity of Black Lives Matter is because they thought it was going to be a big riot and screw up the city in terms of damage.
He said he went on his radio station and said Miss King was inciting a riot. They want Hammond to turn into another Ferguson as a result of the guy smashing in the window, because there was some tensions then. People were scared. You know, why did he do that? And the cop had been known for doing it. In fact, that was like his 4th or 5th incident that he had done that. And one of my girlfriends, the same cop had literally beat the hell out of this girl and her husband, mistaken identity. right in front of her children, right there on Ruth Street, downtown Hammond. Drugged them out their house, beat them down, put a gun to their head, and the kids were screaming and crying. They didn't care. The neighbors had to take the kids. It was horrible.
And it was a mistaken identity?
Yeah, mistaken identity. They thought they were some bank robbers out of Calumet City.
Oh,
they
man.
They were coming out of their home, getting ready to go somewhere, and they got stopped, and the beat down came from there. So.
And what happened? What was the end result of that? Was there a suit?
Yeah, they filed a suit. They got a little pity-ante settlement, and but like when we were meeting then and we got our heads together, we said, guys, they don't care about us filing these lawsuits because the city is going to make money anyway. So at one of the mayor's night out, Kitten and all of us, we challenged the mayor. They said, Mayor, you could easily resolve these lawsuits within a month or so, but you drag them out. And he said, yeah, I'm going to get the bet. I mean, this guy's smart about it. So we said, we want to know the actual cost of the lawsuit. I might have got $10,000, but what did your attorneys get? We never got the information. We went through FOIA, Freedom of Information Act.
Right.
We never got, never.
Jeez. Okay.
I mean,
were there many, say, assemblies or protests that happened in Hammond? I don't remember that many.
You probably, they said that was one of the first. I mean, it was, the preachers didn't come. They were scared because, in my opinion, they're so ineffective. Since Reverend Burns gone, we don't have a ministerial alliance, an effective ministerial alliance. The president of the ministerial alliance, his daughter-in-law works for the city. End of story. He's not going to do anything to jeopardize his daughter's job. And in the same time, the city had bought some land. This church had bought the land from the city. They couldn't afford to maintain it, so the city was maintaining it. So we got to asking questions: Why is my tax dollars maintaining this property? And that got all bent out of shape and stuff. Oh my God! And then this same preacher wanted to be the leader when all this was going on, with the breaking in the window, and then and in between that time they had started citing our middle and high school kids for jaywalking. They literally killed a girl in Morton. Some 260-pound cop slam dunked her for jaywalking. To this day, she has a back injury. I think she has a lawsuit. She went to the NAACP, but they didn't do nothing. So, long story short, the NAACP and the ministerial alliance were supposed to file charges with the Department of Justice. And so, again, long story short, there was a meeting. And me and our little group, we went. We just showed up. It was the Attorney General from our region and his staff. And so I just asked the question, has anyone filed a verbal or written lawsuit with your department regarding the jaywalking and the tasing and the racial profiling? He said no. Well, we looked at Reverend Pope and Reverend Cobb and said, now, what's going on here? This man said y'all ain't done nothing. So Ms. King went ahead and filed charges through the Human Relations Commission, which they did. They tried to stop that. They're going to tell me I can't go through them. But Alvin Cheeks, with his crazy self, he just, after I wrote it out, he took it out of the girl's hand and faxed it to somebody he knew in the Department of Justice, and from that point on, it was filed. And what's so crazy, it's because of those charges that they now, it took about 12 months to resolve it through the Department of Justice, which they never allowed me or my group to be part of the meetings, and we filed the charge. They were having these secret meetings, Reverend Pope, Reverend Cobb, the Human Relations people. They all met in secret with the Department of Justice and the police department and all the mayor's cronies, and they carved out this so-called deal, which didn't amount to a hill of beans, but a citizen advisory board is a result of it. But listen to this. As one of the criteria to serve on this advisory board meeting, you cannot have filed any charges against the police department of the city. So who does that cancel out?
Oh, wow. Right.
They got it
Right.
But I went ahead, when I found out they were soliciting applicants for the advisory commission, I went up to the Human Relations and filed out an application. And she got really nervous. Well, Ms. King, I'm just going to give it to the chief. You know, I said, well, just do what you got to do. So I've been checking on the application. It's been really fuzzy because on the application it says, have you ever filed a complaint against the Hammond Police Department? And I circled it and said, what's the relevancy to this? And so I didn't answer it one way or the other. But she did say that every applicant, they have to acknowledge the application and tell them what happened with it. And in the end, they claim that the people in every district group was selected, which I don't know. I don't know where it is now. But that's how that went. And as a result of that, they hired Andy Short as the assistant chief. And see, they won't even acknowledge that if it wasn't for those charges filed by Charloot Blalk King on behalf of the community, Andy would have never been, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of people who's honest, he would have never got that position. The Justice Department was on Mayor McDermott to do something. So Andy became assistant chief. They're trying to put together this advisory board. They're using the the cameras, which the feds had already told them they had to do it anyway. So that ain't no change. And some other changes, which to me didn't mean nothing. So that's that on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have all the articles on the jaywalking incidents and all of that, and the pictures of the rally.
Oh, yeah, and a lot of those pictures, too, would be very helpful in just talking about the history and how things evolved. And
Right.
What's strange to me is that if you actually filed the complaint, and were you going pro per, or did you have an attorney represent you?
No, you didn't need an attorney. You can just go on their website, get their complaint form, and file it. And that's what I did. I just really run out a generic, because this is what happened. After all that was going on with the tasing of the boy, the mayor had what he called a race relation forum at Civic Center. Well attended, you know, and he had a panelist, Bernard Carter, Bunsage, and a human relations guy, you know, Paul Walker, and, you know, Andy Short, Lonnie Randolph, and some other people. And but it was so biased, he wouldn't let anybody talk. Initially, you could ask questions, and Reverend Pope was on that too, supposedly representing us. He did not ask. He only asked one question that made sense, but he never got the answer. So at this meeting, Paul Walker, bless his heart, told the truth. I think Paul was mad at him too, because the mayor had fired him from Ophelia Steen Center, and he was on the board, and he took him off the board. So I guess Paul said, let me tell the truth. Now, that's my opinion. I don't know. But when the question him as the number of police officers and the effort and what happened with that tasing, he called them out. He said, I can't believe that the supervisor did not come out at the incident after they requested it. And he said it didn't take all that force to get that man's driver's license. He said, I ain't never seen nothing in my life. He said, and furthermore, Mayor, you talk about your numbers, them the same numbers that was there when I was there 20-some years ago. So ain't nothing changed. Ooh, he turned red as a beet. And the newspaper was so impressed with what Paul Walker said that he had his, I guess a week later, he had his own expose in the Times about, you know, the Hammond Police Department while he was there and his opinion. But since then, they didn't got back on the good foot, because when McDermott's wife ran for judge, the Negroes came back in the fold. See, that's what I mean. You're mad one minute, you know, you just don't, you don't, the course.
Right.
You just don't.
But let me ask you something. If you file a complaint with the police department, and that's just like their internal complaint, as opposed to going to the courthouse and filing an official legal complaint or a lawsuit, it would be treated differently because it's an official lawsuit, and now it's dealing with the judicial system. You know what I mean? so that was weird to me, that when all that happened, that an official complaint, not an internal kind of like a internal complaint with the police department. That's kind of like a difference. Mm-hmm.
But the Department of Justice, they forwarded to the police department, and he sent me a letter, but I was so outraged. He sent it by Andy Short, dropped it off. He wouldn't sign the letter, and to me it wasn't authenticated. If your signature ain't there, it don't mean nothing.
Right.
But in that letter, the stats that he had regarding the percentage of kids that were picked up, it was like 54% was African American, 49% was Latino, 3% was white. You know what I'm saying? So you created a situation where the majority of kids you're going to be picking up. And these parents were paying in excess of $200 and $300 for these tickets. They were hauled out of school, hauled in the court. The only reason I knew, I happened to be up there one day and I saw all these kids, and I thought it was a scared straight day or something. You know what I mean? So I asked Elvin Cheeks, what's going on? He said, Carlotta, they done haul these babies in these courts. A lot of them ain't got their parents with them for a citation for jaywalking. I say, jaywalking? So I went on Facebook and asked people, did they know anything about it, and nobody seemed to know about it. So we just got out of the group and started asking questions about it, and we was just shouted down. It was just, this happened. This happened.
Mm.
Our babies. And like I said,
was that a form of harassment? Wasn't it a form of harassment?
It's part of the school-to-prison pipeline.
Oh.
Our kids are in the mayor going to lie and say they're not in the system. I say, anytime you are ticketed, you are in the system. Don't tell me that. But he had these dumb parents, and some of these parents, I won't even go there. I just get a headache, a complete headache. They could have fought it. And a couple of parents, and we was up in City Hall about it, then the mayor going to tell these black parents, well, it wasn't my fault. Judge Harkin is the one that's doing the citations. You need to talk to him. I say, ain't this a blimp? Your policeman is the one citing our babies,
Right. Right.
And he going to say the reason they had to do it, I'll never forget, I was at Mayor's Night Out, and this black woman had come. First time I ever heard about it. It was like a year before they even started citing our babies, that her son got a citation for jaywalking, and the mayor was like, what? He said, ma'am, I'm going to look into this because that don't make no sense. And he went to jail the whole 9 yards. So then the chief of police whispered something in the mayor's ear. Then he came back with, well ma'am, I had to rethink that. I'm told that, listen to this carefully. I know she was white. This woman was going to the school or whatever, and all these black kids just converged on her car, and she was afraid. You follow where I'm going with this?
Yes, exactly.
So as a result of that, they get a grant from the Department of Transportation to cite these babies. And we couldn't even get a copy of the grant. When I finally got a piece of the grant, the money could have been used for beautification, for those guards to help the kids get across the street. Infrastructure is bad in the city of Hammond. There is no sidewalks. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
No sidewalks.
So they would use the money to sanction the kids as opposed to use it to uplift?
Absolutely. And then they lied and said they went to the schools. I went to Dr. Watkins. He said, Carlotta, they hoodwinked me. They came and made a presentation. I said, but baby, that video presentation they made at the school meeting, that was their way of saying that you were aware. And so when I filed my complaint, the Justice Department finally got a hold of Dr. Watkins and said, Ms. King, you was right. Because, a lot of people think I be lying. They take me, oh, she lying, she crazy. He said, I got to apologize. You're right. They were finding them parents $200 and $300. And there was a lot of kids, he said, but I'm going to get this right. Now, whatever happened of it, I don't know, because, at my point in my life, I just get tired of it, I just get tired. NAACP went about the jaywalking, and they got attorneys. And that's what pissed me off about the whole agreement they came with, because the state NAACP woman sat in on that committee, and at the press conference, we blasted them. And, you know, they wouldn't let us talk, but the press listened to us. I said, this ain't nothing but a sham. I said, the NAACP, when they had their press conference in October 2014, they busted the city of Hammond, and the cops said they wanted the guy to be fired, and this jaywalking had to stop, and yada, yada, yada. And here they didn't even address the jaywalking in the complaint. Nothing. But I'm hearing that they're not citing the kids anymore. So, you know, it's like a silent moratorium. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what we had even asked for. Let's have a moratorium on this jaywalking. Let's talk about it. Let the parents get involved. Let's get our kids across the street safely without having to cite them. They didn't want to hear that. In fact, one morning, the mayor did it deliberately on his radio show. Well, to those who don't like me with my citing these kids, I'm letting you know right now, we having a, what they call it, at Morton School when school is out. So we called the principal. About 4 of us parents went out there. When the cops saw us, they didn't do nothing because we had our cameras. We was ready. We were ready. Then that's when we found out the light was broke. And you know, all they needed was an aisle to get them from one side to the next, which would have cost nothing. You got these portable aisles you can put in the streets, right?
Right.
To get kids, because we're, you know, Mr. Martin, it's such a simple fix, but
right. Well, if you want it to be a fix, it's kind of like if they want things to be a fix, it could be a simple fix.
They made some money. They got these kids in the system, and it's part of the prison. And then one time when I addressed the mayor about it, because, you know, he don't want to talk to me, and I just really got my voice back in I got fired in 2011. I started going back to meetings and stuff. The end of, well, the 2014, that's when I helped put together that Black Lives Matter, because they literally had muzzled me with my lawsuit. I didn't want to be bothered. I knew I was being watched, you know, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So I didn't go to nobody's meetings. I just stayed out of it. But after they did that man, tased that man, and that jaywalking thing, it got me back in the streets, out of this house. I said, I can't stand by them. And it was Hispanic kids, too, and they was crying, and half of them didn't tell their mamas. That's how come they got the big old tickets, because they were afraid to tell their parents that they got a ticket. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, they would have found out sooner or later, you know, tickets increase. So it's better to tell them when it's 200 or 300 than 6.
Right. So Hammond suddenly, it's so divided. I mean, you can't even give any sense of race. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about it. Everybody, all they want to know is that's that Carlotta King, if she would shut up. You know, if she would just shut up. But, you know, we know she's behind it. That kind of foolishness. And it's crazy. But like I said, Anthony could be a force, but he allows himself, in my opinion, I don't want this to be, well, I know you're taping me, but this is just for informational purpose. He could be such a hero in this city, and but he just allows the people. Some of these things that happen, they don't respect him. I mean, when you got major developments in your district and they don't even bring you to the table, they don't respect you. And we just feel it's a slow gentrification. I believe at some point somebody going to come through, because Calumet Avenue right now, they done tore down so many buildings, and there's nothing but car lots and them Asians coming here doing them hair deals, you know, and cigarette shops.
So
what? Avenue. He's trying to take City Hall out of the 3rd District and take it downtown Hammond. So where do you think that would leave us? What happened to our property value?
Exactly. Well, do you think that there's, with the way the political structure is actually structured and heading, do you think that there's any hope as far as raising up, getting new companies, African American, I'm speaking about, African American establishments, and where does it look? Is it optimistic for us, or is it a continued struggle?
As long as we have McDermott Jr., that'll never happen. We need new leadership, fresh leadership. McDermott right now, he and his brother is a big-time commercial broker. They buying up everything in Hammond, and They're just getting there, and you know, he didn't say it. He don't want to be here because every other year he's going to D.C. or, running for this or running for that. But he know he can't win. But he put his wife in this election for this judgeship. So they're just building their empire, and Negroes is helping them. They're building the empire. That's all. And we don't even get the crumbs. I mean, East Hammond is deteriorating so bad, and if you don't replace these vacant lots with something, something. If you don't give our babies something, I mean, not everybody can afford the Y, for swimming lessons. And like in 2014, the swimming pool was just in such bad straits. So I raised my hand. I said, Mayor, is there going to be any improvements to Hammond, to the swimming pool in Maywood? I couldn't even get it out. If anything, we need to be talking about closing it down because don't nobody use it. I said, well, kiss my butt. I couldn't even get it out.
Man,
so
okay.
Now I'm just frightful that they might try, because, I mean, it is underutilized, but to get it back up, offer swimming classes,
Right.
Because I went and got my pool pass last week. I'm going to start going over there because my knees are bad and trying to get my flexibility back in my knees because I got one at the Civic Center as well, but if I can get in a routine of going to the pool every day, that would help. It's easier. Just walk across the street and come home as opposed to getting in your car, getting wet, and all that other foolishness. I mean, it's a nice facility. I'm mighty afraid if we don't use it, they are going to shut it down.
Right. Well, you don't use it, you lose it. I guess that's the model.
Right. If nobody uses it, that's going to be his excuse.
Right.
But
I actually wanted to get your. I'm sorry. Say it again.
No, I just said economic development in the 3rd or 2nd district. I don't see it, especially the 2nd district where them Hispanics are, and it's deteriorating far faster than because he don't have no love for no Hispanics either. Because they used to have their little carts with their little what's them, corn pones or whatever you call it. Shut it down. We don't want that. We don't want that.
So. Okay. I first of all, I wanted to get your email address, so I can be sending information and if you also get any of those pictures, and I know Paul and Mr. McClendon Wayman had a ton of pictures, and Teddy has access to all those things, but we want to show Hammond kind of in the heyday kind of thing, and if there are any pictures of Conkey Street or Brooks House that you have on, interior, exterior, any of that stuff, we're trying to compile a gallery of Hammond. So if you have any of that, but what's your email?
I just have most recent stuff. Now, Miss Durr, she had a museum down there at the Lower Passmore House of a lot of those pictures. Now, I would try to get a hold of her or Ricky and get in there and see, hopefully they don't destroy that stuff.
Right.
She has a little museum upstairs of East Hammond.
Oh, okay. I will definitely, I'll call Ricky up because I know his number. So what's your email address?
It's the letter CBK 0563 at Comcast.net.
Comcast.net. Okay. Well, what I wanted to do, I wanted to really thank you for taking the time and talking to me about the insides of Hammond, the political structure of Hammond, and the movers and shakers and the people who are less movers and shakers and this, that, and the other. But it kind of gives different perspectives, and then an activist like yourself has a different perspective than just an older person who just is not doing too much, or a younger person, or so it takes all colors to find out what Hammond really was, what it is, and what it could be in the future. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out. And this will live. What will happen is I will go through this and have it transcribed, and it'll live in a book in the library as well as the audio. So at one point, 50 years from now, when someone wants to know, what was Hammond like, people can actually pull up these books and pull up the audios. So it's accessible for someone who's researching. And it actually started when I went to go research and stuff, and there wasn't too much stuff about Black or East Hammond in the library at all. It was more so Gary, East Chicago, Mary Hatcher. It wasn't a lot of stuff, and they had a media room where they had not too many pictures. They had a file that, and they called it the Black File, where there were some articles about Reverend Burns and some other people, but it was kind of insignificant in terms of if you wanted to find out what Hammond was in its heyday, you couldn't go to the library and find that information out. And so that's the purpose of...
Two huge pictures, I just kept them. The first Black History program, I happened to coordinate it, and the impetus of that program was to honor the first, the first this, the first that, and I have that in a huge photo. And then the second year we honored all the musicians, African-American musicians from East Hammond, and I have the photo of that. And I have it here in my house.
That would be, I mean, just to get those names, I mean, if you have that, I will email you my information too.
Okay.
But just because I'm doing a whole section on the first, first this, first that, and then also some of the people who have gone on from Hammond to do stuff on a national level, like a Nerve Cross or different people, and even like I interviewed Jeff Morrow, who's gone on to, he just did Empire and some other stuff, and so
I saw that.
So, yeah. So it's important, and there's also going to be a website that's associated with this too. So, and the webmasters are actually orchestrating that right now. And so it's just a place that there'll be all kinds of things on there, and I'll actually approach you about some other stuff. But hold on one second. Let me just go offline.